You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Peach State Payments. Ethical processing, more profit, less stress. Chiro HD, more than an EHR. Projects management simplified. The Chiro Speaking Company. Attract, educate, and convert. Chiro Spring, cloud-based, user-friendly software with all the essential features chiropractors need. Chiro Script AI. Redmond Relight. The IFCO. Chiro Moguls. Chiro Health USA. Sherman College of Chiropractic. Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, and Life West College of Chiropractic. Let's hustle. This episode of Chiro Hustle is brought to you by Relight Hydration by Redmond. Here's the truth. Most Americans are walking around dehydrated, low energy, brain fog, muscle cramps, afternoon crashes. And many people think they just need more coffee, when they actually need more electrolytes. Because hydration isn't just about drinking more water, it's about the minerals. Your body relies on electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and trace minerals to help your cells actually absorb and use the water you drink. Without those minerals, water alone doesn't do the job. That's where Relight Hydration comes in. Relight is built around Redmond Real Salt, a natural, mineral-rich salt harvested from an ancient seabed in Utah. It provides the foundational sodium your body needs for proper hydration, along with balanced electrolytes to support energy, muscle function, and daily performance. No artificial dyes, no unnecessary fillers, just clean electrolytes built around real mineral salt. Because at Redmond, we believe the secret's in the salt. If you're new to Relight, start with their sample pack so you can try multiple flavors and find your favorite. Once hydration becomes part of your daily rhythm, you'll feel the difference. And chiropractors understand this well. The nervous system runs on electrical signals, and electrolytes help support that communication throughout the body. If you're tired of hitting the wall mid-afternoon, it might not be more caffeine you need. It might just be better hydration. Go to chirohustle.com and get 25% off of Relight with their exclusive promo. Hydrate smarter, move better, stay aligned.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 751 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Josiah Fitzsimmons. And if you want to hear about his business, Lucro, how he makes bookkeeping redefined and profitable, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Today I have Josiah Fitzsimmons on with me, coming out from the heartland, out there somewhere in middle America. We call it Iowa. That's my home state as well, and I'm really excited to have him on for this powerful and informational episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. But before we jump into his story, as it always goes, I tell you our big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, first things first is we believe in freedom of speech. So that's first and foremost. That's why we have a podcast, because I thought it was important to make a documented effort of the legacy of chiropractic and document it. Number two, we believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. If you're listening to this and you're not a chiropractor and you're looking for those connections, reach out to a chiropractor in your community and say, hey, what can you do to help me with my family's health? And they'll advocate for you and they'll take care of you. Number three, we believe in protecting the sacred trust. It's BJ Palmer's last written words. If you're a chiropractor and you haven't read this, go to the show notes, click on Sacred Trust. You're going to learn more about chiropractic than you did before previously, I guarantee you. And if you're a chiropractor been practicing for years, it might reignite your passion for this beautiful profession. Lastly, we believe in subluxation-based chiropractic. I know I shouldn't have to say this, but they're removing the lexicon from the colleges and from the universities. So if you know a student, please share the show with them so they can get integrated into the message of real chiropractic and philosophy. We also believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical, gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual, and that creates educated intelligence. And this is episode 751 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Dr. Josiah, welcome.
Let's go. I'm jacked up. I mean, I just watched the Big Idea BJ Palmer video with my team literally an hour ago, and everything you're saying, I love it. It's not a belief, it's a fact.
Yeah, it's not a belief system. I tell people all the time, if you want a belief system, that's called the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. And I tell people that chiropractic is a healing art. And it's not whether you believe or not. You can get adjusted as a non-believer and it still works.
Amen.
All right. So we connected. I was on a mountain about 3 weeks ago, and I didn't have good reception. And you sent me a message and saying, hey, I want to get on some podcasts. And I called you back immediately. I didn't think you were expecting that. But you got a chance to share your story with me a little bit, and I shared my story with you. But one of the big takeaways is you're just a regular guy. You put your pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else out there. But you growing up the way you did taught you some grit and some integrity and some skills that you have today that you've transformed into a really amazing business, and now you're helping other chiropractors with the work that you've done. So your personal story, man, let's just jump right out of the gates. How did you get into chiropractic?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great story. And for me, going back all the way to an early age, I really learned the understanding of hard work. And as we were talking about earlier, I grew up with not a whole lot with my family, and when I got into college, I thought medical school was the pinnacle of health, and my dad was really into health. My grandma was like, hey, medical doctor is the pinnacle of society. I had an MCAT scheduled. I had taken the prep course. I was working in a hospital, and I was playing football in college. I got hurt. I went to this local chiropractor, and I got amazing results when they were going to maybe do surgery, and he got me all corrected without any surgery. And then he said, hey, did you know you can not only be a doctor, but you can also be an entrepreneur? And my dad's been waiting tables for 40 years. My mom delivered newspaper and was a bank teller to this day. And I was like, entrepreneur, what? Like, what is that word? I don't even know what that means. And so he painted this picture of the potential to be in control of your freedom and also change people's lives from a natural inside out approach, the way God designed your body. And me with my faith, I was like, well, this sounds like the most amazing profession in the world. This is how God designed our body. We're releasing the innate potential within humans to heal and reach their full potential. And I get to have no potential ceiling of opportunity as an entrepreneur. Like, where do I sign up? And so that's how I ended up going into chiropractic school with that in mind, knowing I wanted to be an entrepreneur and a chiropractor.
So being a businessman came to you at a young age. I want you to share that story too.
Yeah. So when I was growing up and I was in third grade, my mom was a single parent at the time, 2 other siblings. And she's like, hey, I need help to pay the bills. I can only do so many newspaper routes with what time I have to deliver the papers by. The papers are ready at 3 a.m. I got to have them delivered by 7 a.m. I only got 4 hours. I can only do this many routes. But if any of you boys can help me, I was in third grade. My older brother was in fourth, and my younger brother was in first grade. So like, if any of you guys can help me, I can deliver more paper routes, help pay the bills. And so I raised my hand. I said, hey, I'll help you. Started waking up at 2:30 a.m. every morning, worked from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., helped my mom deliver papers. And I did that all the way through school. I'd go to third grade, and my teacher couldn't believe I already had worked for 4 hours delivering newspapers. And so my mom started paying me $10 a day. And so I was making $300 a month. I ended up buying most of my own clothes. I bought my own bike. I pay for some of the family's meals, help pay for groceries sometimes, and being a low-income family, we lived in a college town, Ames, Iowa. When Iowa State students moved out, that's when we went furniture shopping, dumpster diving, taking pop cans out of my neighbor's trash to turn them in for nickels, at the local grocery store. And honestly, at that early age, that's when I really learned the value of hard work. I really love to enjoy work, whether it's even if it was only $10, $300 a month in third grade, is pretty. You can do a lot of things, a lot of Pokemon cards, and when you're getting $300 a month in third grade. But that's where I really learned the value of hard work. And then as I got older, I started getting pretty good at sports. I realized I wasn't going to have any benefit, and my mom had gotten remarried, and I wasn't going to qualify for any financial aid. And so I realized I got to get a scholarship. And so I really dedicated myself to football to try and figure out how to diet, how to exercise, how to develop myself. Ended up getting a full ride for football to South Dakota State. And that's when I realized, holy cow, if I work hard and I'm smart and I dedicate myself to something, then I can accomplish anything I want. And so from third grade working hard to getting a full ride scholarship, by dedicating myself. And I wasn't the most amazing athlete by any means. I put in time, effort, and energy and outworked, all my classmates. And I realized, holy cow, anything in life is achievable at the end of hard work and working smart. And so I took that same philosophy, straight into chiropractic school. I went to over 50 different clinics while I was still in chiropractic school to learn the business aspect of practice. Opened my own clinic, like you said, with over 400 prepaid appointments just 4 months after graduating. Then did over $1 million my first year in practice, $2 million my second year in practice. My third year in practice was COVID. And so I started saying, hey, how do I continue to grow and evolve? There's got to be all these other chiropractic clinics, that are doing way more revenue than me, that are way more successful. I'm only 2 years out in practice. I look around, I could barely find any clinics in the country that were generating more than $2 million of revenue with chiropractic adjustment only, especially chiropractic adjustment only clinics. I couldn't find any. And so I started studying other professions and what they do, how they scale businesses. Next year went to $5.5 million in my fourth year in practice in 1,800 square feet. And then last year we did just as $7 million in my one location.
So from a kid kicking cans to setting a standard for the next generation of chiropractors is pretty cool, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I do this show, because I get a chance to make friendship and learn about people's passions. And I never made the show about me. I made it about one mission, was to elevate the truth of chiropractic. And your testimony there is the reality of what happens when you work hard and trust God. And I think it's just a big mission out there. That gets me to this second level of conversation with that similar type of question, though. But what does it mean for you to be a chiropractor?
For me, it's an opportunity to change lives. One thing that's really big for me is my faith. And I don't think there's any greater purpose on earth than changing people's lives for God, and impacting people's lives for eternity. But I think chiropractic has the second greatest purpose. I mean, what other profession, gets to do what we do, gets to unlock the inside innate healing potential of human bodies, change the trajectory of their health, their life, their families' lives. I was just saying, just played The Big Idea. If you haven't watched that video with BJ Palmer, he talks about how, one fall off a ladder is a small thing. One subluxation is a small thing, but that can turn into disease, which is disease, dyshyphanese. And that's a big thing for that man, right? And then one adjustment might be a small thing, right? But altering the health of that individual is a big thing for that person. And that can alter the impact of a community, of a city, of a state, of a nation, and of a world. And that's really the whole big idea. And I feel that us as chiropractors in the chiropractic profession, the purpose that we have, the impact that we can have of people in my practice that thought they were going to get surgeries, or thought they were going to pass away, or thought they're going to be on a walker or a cane or a wheelchair, or hadn't felt their feet in decades. Or we just had a lady in our office who hadn't had a day for 8 straight years without a headache. 3 visits in, she had her first headache-less day in over 8 years and came into our office crying, right? This is the impact that we get to have. And I always tell people all the time, Jesus and chiropractors, like the top miracle workers in the history of the world, right? Jesus at the top, but who more often gets called a miracle worker than a chiropractor?
Well, listening to your answer to that, it takes me back to, it's kind of funny, but it's kind of real. I was speaking recently at the Virginia Chiropractic Association out in Virginia Beach, and my talk was the science of communication. And one of the slides I popped up on there was of BJ Palmer's WOC, World of Chiropractic, Wonders of Chiropractic radio station. And then there was a picture of me next to him. And I said, would BJ Palmer hire me, or would I hire BJ Palmer? Because the irony of thinking about that is innovation, and where we're at today. The big idea still resonates as the truth. And, those type of qualities still are important to people. If people knew how important it was to be adjusted regularly, they'd all be lined up around every chiropractic office that's in the United States and around the world, from the time they open to the time they close doors. And the marketing would be, like you said, the miracles. One of my dear friends, Peter Morgan, he does these mission trips down to Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and they don't have a word for chiropractic down there. So they call them the touch healers. And the other part of my talk was the closest thing to Jesus in this world is a chiropractor, because you put your hands on people and you create miracles in people's lives. And you change their lives through the healing touch of the adjustment. And there's nothing more biblical grounding than a chiropractic adjustment, in my opinion, when it comes to putting hands on people and changing their lives, like you're talking about this woman with 8 years of headaches. So yeah, it's cool to like have the intermingling of our stories, like overlapping a little bit and coinciding with each other. But you're such a good businessman. You figured out how to have the Chiro hustle. You've been doing it now for a handful of years as a practitioner, and now as a transitioned into Lucro, another business of yours. With all that on your plate, how do you develop practice life? How do you get practice life work balance? Like, how are you able to segment your life as a businessman, a practice owner, practitioner, to making quality of life outside of practice?
Absolutely. Faith, family, that's really my big priorities. My mom got remarried, became one of 9 kids. I have 3 kids myself now, 9, 5, and 2. I coach all their sports. I was just the head coach of 4 sports teams simultaneously. I got a football tournament this weekend with 3 football games this weekend. And there's nothing more important. Like I said, faith, family, and then everything else is what I like to say. And so for me, it's really keeping the main thing, keeping the priorities at the top of the priority list. Easier said than done, right? And so for me, I'm a really big proponent of, one, scheduling time properly, making sure, hey, I have a date night scheduled with my wife. I have dates scheduled in my calendar with my kids, or I'm going to have one-on-one time with them. I have set hours that I know I need to check out and check in with my family, and I need to be present as much as possible, or I need to make sure my phone stays in my car, or in a drawer or somewhere where I can focus and be locked in as much as possible, and creating structure around my schedule. These are the times I do business. These are the time I'm doing family. These are the times I'm doing fitness, all these different areas of life, making sure they are structured. But things are going to change, right? Things are going to come up, right? And so I'm a big proponent of what's called the delegate and elevate quadrant. And so you can easily Google it, but basically you create 4 quadrants. What do you like to do? What do you don't like to do? What are you great at? And what are you not great at? And basically everything in your life, you need to put into one of those 4 quadrants. And so I'm a big proponent of doing this on a monthly basis. You can separate business, personal, fitness, all different areas of your life if you want, or you can just throw everything on the one piece of paper and get into one of those 4 quadrants. But in that bottom corner quadrant, you're going to have things that you don't like to do and you're not good at them, right? And you need to figure out ways to get those things off of your plate, as soon as possible. Figure out what the value of those things are, how much it costs to do that, whether that's a virtual assistant, an in-office assistant, an executive, assistant, someone help you, mow your yard. Maybe you love mowing your yard. Maybe that's in your top other corner, right? You need to figure out on an individual basis what you love to do, what you're great at, and also what you don't like to do, what you're not great at. And then you need to continually evaluate those areas of your life, because there's going to be new things that are just continually going to start overflowing your cup. And so you got to continually be trimming the fat off the bottom as well.
So personal life balance, when do you sleep?
I sleep from about 11 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Cool. Because I know that's a part where most people trim the edges off of it too, and eventually they burn out and they're no good for anybody. So, that's an important quadrant to make sure we're not leaving off of your importance. So we shared some personal story. We shared practice, life, work balance, what it means to be a chiropractor, being gritty at a young age. And now I want to transition into the purpose and product, because you're saying off camera that you feel like chiropractic is the greatest health care product on the planet. And then the people equals profitability, and that leads us into Lucro. So the purpose of chiropractic is a very fundamental one. Like we were saying, it's not a belief system. It's a science, philosophy, and art. And the product is, I guess, healthier people and healthier communities following BJ Palmer's big idea. And when the people are better, as you've noticed, your life improved with chiropractic as well as mine. So now we're transitioning into profitability. So let's talk about Lucro. Let's talk about how it helped you organize your life into these, I guess, 4 quadrants of making money and how that can transition to other people.
Yeah, you hit it right on. Like I said, I think we have the second greatest purpose. We have the greatest healthcare product in the world. We have some of the greatest collection of people in the world. I mean, you meet chiropractors, they're the most genuine, wonderful, amazing servants in the world. I mean, there's just such a great collection of people. But we're not, as a profession, running very profitable businesses. And I'll throw a fifth P in there, is because we're not reaching our potential. And that's really the whole premise behind Lucro. Is as I was growing my own clinic, and trying to get to the next level, I realized there was such a higher level of potential that our profession is not reaching as a whole. And for me, to hit $1 million my first year, is $2 million my second year, and already be one of the top clinics in the country, I was excited for myself, but I was frustrated with the profession, because how in only 2 years did I achieve such a high level, of impact in my community, when so many other people have the exact same product in their communities and they're not reaching their potential. They're not impacting nearly as many people as possible. And so I really did a deep dive introspectively of like, okay, what am I doing differently than a traditional practice? How did I achieve $2 million practice in 2 years, $5.5 million practice in 4 years, when so many other clinics are barely scraping by or barely seeing very many people in their office? And so when I really looked backwards, I realized that I became very, very obsessed with understanding the data behind making decisions in my practice. I learned that instead of just continually guessing and think, oh, maybe I should hire this person, maybe I should invest in this marketing, or maybe I should do this thing today, I realized there has to be a better way. There has to be more of a formula of how to win and take the correct actions with a higher level of consistency. And so my biggest thing that I always joke about is kind of like Nancy Pelosi, right? How does she make such consistent, smart investments all the time with such high returns, right? She has insider information. And I realize that we as a profession have that same inside information of our own practice. What's working, what's not working, what is all the data inside of our own clinics to make inside information decisions with exponential returns. But we are not doing a good job of evaluating that data. And so that's the whole premise of Lucro is we do your bookkeeping for you. You have a dedicated bookkeeper every single week, does your books every week, and then we give you a monthly financial report based on your financial data. These are the top areas that you should focus on that are going to take the least amount of work, that are going to have the greatest impact on driving increased profitability and impact for your practice.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Peach State Payments. Ethical processing, more profit, less stress. Chiro HD, more than an EHR. Practice management simplified. The Chiro Speaking Company. Attract, educate, and convert. Chiro Spring, cloud-based, user-friendly software with all the essential features chiropractors need. Chiro Script AI. Rudman Relight. The IFCO. Chiro Moguls. Chiro Health USA. Sherman College of Chiropractic. Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, and Life West College of Chiropractic. Let's hustle. Hey docs, let me ask you something. Are you adjusting patients but not adjusting your revenue? Because a lot of chiropractors are still undercharging without even realizing it. They're accepting insurance allowances that are just too low. And they're hesitant to raise the fees because they're worried about pushback from patients. The problem is, when your fees and financial systems aren't aligned, it creates a slow leak in your practice. And when you try to grow, more marketing, more patients, maybe even another location, the leak gets bigger. There's actually a smarter way to handle this. Chiro Health USA helps chiropractors charge appropriately when insurance is available while still serving cash or limited benefit patients through a compliant discount medical plan. The results? Many practices see revenue increases around 15 to 20% without adding more visits. Same patients, better margins, more freedom. If you want to stop leaving money on the table and build a practice that's both profitable and compliant, check out chirohealthusa.com to learn more. Lots of good information there. I tell people all the time, the reason that we do a day 1, day 2 with chiropractic is we do all the assessments and x-rays and exams on visit 1. And then we explain that to people on visit 2. And the reason we follow that method is because we don't want to guess with your health. And it sounds like you don't want to guess with people's financial health either.
Exactly. Spot on. You wouldn't lay out a plan or adjust somebody without an examination. Why are you trying to grow your practice without knowing the data and the insights of your practice? Now, there is different levels of data that I talk a lot about. There's marketing data, return on ad spend, customer acquisition cost, cost per lead. There's EHR data, show up rate, sign up rate, lifetime value, right? But at the top of all those is financial data. That's why you're running a practice versus working for a practice, is because the ceiling of potential of being an owner and an entrepreneur has a higher ceiling of potential rather than working for someone else. And so that's really needs to be the top of what I call the CEO decision-making funnel. At the top of the CEO decision-making funnel is financial data. What's the revenue of my clinic? What's the profitability? How much I spend on my team, my marketing, my operations, my products, or anything that you offer in your practice? And then where's the big opportunities? Where are you overspending? Where are you underspending? And then you can drill down into secondary data points, to actually make these decisions, with clarity, confidence, and certainty. And that's really the biggest thing is if you know exactly that this is the right decision. If you put $1 in a machine and it's going to give you more than $1 back out, you're going to put unlimited dollars into the machine, right? But so many people have no idea what's coming back out that they're so hesitant to make decisions, right? And they're just going with gut feel, or that's what my friend said, or this is what an outdated coach said. Everything that I try and help chiropractors with is making personalized decisions based on their own information, not what he said or she said.
So I know there's a lot of guilt and shame and fear that comes into play with people actually facing their business and their numbers. How do you help people through that stage?
That's, like you said, it can become very emotional, and I'm big on teaching my kids, very few parts of life is black and white. Most of life is gray, right? And, when you can, as much as possible, get those black and white things that are clear, then you don't have to make guesses and you don't have to make, I think that this is the best choice. If you can try and make things with data as black and white as possible, like I said, then you have the confidence. If you know what the result's going to be, you're much more likely to make that decision. If it's a massive risk and a total unknown, then you're more likely to make no decision at all and not take that risk at all, right? And that's something me and you were talking about. That's a lot of people are just living life in fear, right? Fred Barbs, right, wrote a whole book about it, right? And so that they're just afraid to make that next decision, to make that next choice, because they don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so that's what really we help bridge that gap with Lucro, is giving you the confidence of this is the next best decision to make. This is what the data supports it for your individual numbers.
So you're talking about framing this out as a mindset for your kids. Now let's turn the page a few ahead and give some mindset to a young DC that's, 10th quarter and ready to go into get their patient numbers. Give us some advice to them going into the real world.
Yeah, I would say I talk about confidence, clarity, conviction, and that's what I would talk about the most with a young DC is conviction. Okay, conviction in what we do, in the service that we provide, in the product that we're delivering of the chiropractic adjustment, and the impact that it can have on people's lives. We just had a lady in our office who was scheduled to have her leg amputated. She had a flesh-eating bacteria. She came in our office for back pain originally, and that's what she thought we could help her with. while I was adjusting her, I noticed that she had some bandages coming out the bottom of her jeans. Her name was Lorena. I said, "Hey, Lorena, what's going on? Like, did you cut your leg?" She proceeds to tell me this story that she has this flesh-eating bacteria that doctors have tried everything, antibiotics, medications, you name it, nothing they can do to stop the progression of this flesh-eating bacteria. And they're worried it's going to kill her unless they amputate her leg from above the knee. And so I said, "Hey, I'm not going to pretend that we're going to heal this issue, but I'm going to do my best to get your nervous system function best as possible. Okay. And we'll see what happens." 6 weeks later, she comes back in and she told me that her surgery had been canceled and that her flesh-eating bacteria was all gone. And the doctor said they'd never seen anything like it. They said it was a spontaneous, miraculous case of the bacteria going away. And we have before and after pictures of literally what her legs look, where you can see the bone of her leg because the bacteria was eating down to it. And now it looks like some rough scars. And so that's where I would lean in with this young DC is the conviction of the confidence in what we do, the care that we provide in the lives that you can impact. And so when you have that conviction, you have that confidence. I know, James, you're a screening phenom all around the country. I've heard stories about what you do. And the only way you can sign people up at a fair, at a farmer's market, at some random event that they go to and have no thought that they're going to be scheduling themselves for initial day one in a chiropractic office is having extreme conviction and belief in the power that we provide as chiropractors to change people's lives. And so that's what I would really echo in for a young DC or somebody already in practice. It's like, how much greater of a job can you have than changing people's lives on a daily basis?
Well, I think conviction really matters. And I love your explanation of the story and how you found real life experience doing that. But what I know is the other side of the profession, that they're also lacking philosophical grounding, and they're also lacking competency in their adjusting skills. What advice would you give to students on becoming more philosophically strong and getting better technique and tactical skills as an adjuster?
From a philosophical standpoint, the green books are a great place to start. But honestly, just surrounding yourself with great people. You're going to become the average of who you hang out with, what you listen to, what you allow into your mind. We're talking about children earlier. And like I said, the number one thing I think that I can actually impart onto my kids is teaching them how to think. Because every situation, there's 1,000 of them every day, they got a decision to go left, right, or any other direction. And you need to have the framework based on your experience, other people's experience, and tapping into the knowledge, whether that be online or other people's knowledge and experience, to make the best decision, 1,000 different ways every single day. And if you can have that framework of how to make those decisions, then you're going to make the right decision much more consistently. So, from a philosophical standpoint, I just point back to how our body was designed, how God designed our body from the inside through the nervous system. That's really the true art of a great chiropractor, is unlocking that unlock that potential of the nervous system for the body to heal and recover. I know there's lots of different great adjusting seminars, techniques, and really honing in on their craft and practicing, as much as possible, but at the end of the day, you need to surround yourself with great people who are speaking the same language and uplifting you.
Well, Sid Williams said it best. Over here is your business hand. Over here is your adjusting hand. And you have to meet them together. And that's what it sounds like you've done in your short time so far as being a chiropractor. Who are some of the people out there that helped influence you to become the man and doctor you are today? I'm sure early on your mom had a tremendous impact on you, teaching you how to go out there and become a young entrepreneur. But as you developed into the man you are today, who are some of the people that have helped you develop to this amazing leader that you are?
Yeah, I would first thing that comes to my head is my brothers and sisters. Being one of 9 kids every single day, in a lower income household, it's like, if I didn't finish my food fast enough, I didn't get seconds. If I didn't fight for everything outside, in the backyard, on the streets outside, I didn't get anything. And so just that competitiveness, that I achieved with especially my brothers, that one older than me, one younger than me, John and Jordan, just always trying to get better, pushing each other to the next level was a huge impact, on me, and that, achiever, competitive mindset. Secondarily, honestly, for me, it's been a lot of phenomenal books. I was a really big reader for number of years. I've kind of cut back on my reading recently because I feel like there's so much knowledge with so little action. And I think that we have a chronic issue in society today, overconsumption of knowledge and far too amount of action. So I'm trying to do 1% knowledge and take 99% action. Whereas I think a lot of people get that flipped around and they're only taking action 1% of the time. So I think I found a lot of great mentors in books. And then, like I said, I went to over 50 clinics as a student, a lot of great doctors that I'm still friends with today that I learned all little different things. I added up, a little piece from this office, a little piece from this office, and just combined them together, into what my practice is today.
Well, I hope that John and Jordan get a chance to watch this interview with you today. I think that they'll be super impressed for the big shout out. And talking into the future a little bit, and then I have one more question for you, but talking into the future a little bit, you said adamantly, we have the best profession in the world. Where do you see the profession going in the next decade?
Where do I see it going versus where do I want it to go? I think it's a great question. I don't have the greatest answer of where it's going to go, where I would love it for it to go. And I'd love to be an impact to make it more likely to go that direction is exactly what we've been talking about today. People having confidence and clarity in the product that we deliver. When has there been a greater time in the history of the world for the advancement of chiropractic with the Make America Healthy Again movement, with what everything's come to light, and people finally waking up and realizing, big pharma and everything that's going on from drugs and surgeries perspective is that they profit off of the world being sick. And our goals as chiropractors is to allow people to heal from the inside the way God designed it to. You want to see a chiropractor as least as you possibly can to maintain the highest quality of health possible, right? And so that really overarching premise, I think as a profession, I would love to figure out a way to unify the profession around that simple message, of where health comes from and what chiropractors do to unlock that health potential. And I think that's where it starts first and foremost. And so if we can lean into that and work together as a profession versus turning inwards and shooting inwards, I think that's the next step.
Well, I think you've shared a great amount of information today on your stance on many topics that we've discussed. My last question, and then I want resources, but if you had to go back and do it all over again, is there anything you would do different?
I'm thinking of things that I know I could have done better, but if I didn't make those mistakes, how would I have ever known? And one thing that I'm a big proponent of is failing fast. And if you know that success is at the end of trying 20 times, then you would ideally want to fail 19 times as fast as humanly possible. And as I reflect right now, I would say fail faster. I would say I wish I had even more confidence, even greater conviction to try new things, take risks, and mess up more often, because that's really the only way you're going to have success eventually, and know that that was the right decision. If you just pick the right choice haphazardly or by chance many times in a row, then you never really appreciate how to be successful to begin with.
Thanks for putting so much thought into that question. I was just around a group of chiropractors, and somebody said from the stage that the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. And I think that takes it home. If people wanted to work with you or learn more about Lucro, where do we send them to?
Yeah, morelucro.com. We have an incredible vault of resources of things that I've done to scale my single location chiropractic clinic to $7 million that are freely available. And, if you want better financial insights into how to have a bigger impact on your community, of how to get the greatest healthcare product out into the hands of more lives and then have a greater impact on your own team members' lives and your own life, then, I'd be honored, for our company to help you achieve that.
Mylucro.com.
More Lucro.
Morelucro.com. Morelucero.
Lucro.
Lucro. So one more time, morelucro.com, guys. Sorry for the fumble on that. In closing, is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to share with our audience today?
Something that really changed my life a few years ago was figuring out more who I was as a human being. What was my own true purpose or my own true core values? I think a lot of people just go through the motions of life, and your parents tell you this, your teacher tells you that, your professor tells you this, TikTok video tells you that, society says this, and you don't ever slow down to really truly understand yourself. And I never did either until about 3 years ago. And I finally created space on my calendar, white space on my calendar, to really look inwardly. One of the catalysts for me was reading a book. And now I'm just blanking on the book. I just had it. Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And if you read the book, it's about an incredible person, Viktor Frankl, and going through Nazi concentration camp. And as soon as somebody lost their purpose, they passed away. And a lot of people's purpose was in somebody else. It was they found out their wife passed away or their kids passed away or someone they held dear. They were just living only to see that person again. And as soon as that external purpose went away, so did their life. And for me, it was a great opportunity to figure out where do I find the most purpose? What are my personal core values? Yes, I have a great connection in my faith with Jesus and my purpose in there, but how do I live that faith and live that purpose based on how God truly created me to be? And it really helped me come up with my now number one core value for myself is constantly growing. And I found that over a year of this introspection and really study of what my purpose is, what fulfills my cup every single day, not what fulfills other people's cup or borrowing from someone else or just doing what other people say resonates with them, but actually living out my own individual purpose that I self-discovered. So that's what I would say. Find more white space on your calendar, put your phone, technology, people away, have quiet space. I highly recommend reading Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And really figure out what is your purpose on earth. Why did God put you on this earth? And then start living that purpose.
Well, Dr. Josiah, appreciate you for sharing some of your white space with me today and for giving me your time and your talent and your message. Chiro Hustle is going to close out at episode 751. And like I always close out our shows, I tell everybody, you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for your time once again, Dr. Josiah.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.